Book of Heaven, Volume 7, Part 1. J.M.J. January 30th, 1906. Constancy orders everything. Continuing in my usual state, Blessed Jesus came for just a little and told me, "My daughter, how necessary it is that the soul be constant in doing the good that she has started. In fact, though she has a beginning, she shall have no end. And not having an end, it is necessary that she conform to the ways of the eternal God. God is just, is holy, is merciful. He is He who contains everything. But perhaps only for one day? No, always, always, always. In the same way, the soul must not be patient, humble, and obedient one day, and impatient, proud, and capricious another day. These are broken virtues. It is like mixing black and white, light and darkness. Everything is disorder. Everything is confusion. Ways that are completely dissimilar to her Creator. In this soul, there is continuous war, because passions wage war against her. In fact, in seeing themselves being nourished so very often, they hope the victory is theirs. Demons, creatures, and even virtues themselves, in seeing themselves disappointed, wage a fierce war against her, and end up nauseating her. If these souls are saved, oh, how much work the fire of purgatory shall have to do. On the other hand, for a constant soul, everything is peace. Mere constancy itself already keeps everything in its place. Passions already feel they are dying, and who is the one who, nearing death, thinks about waging war against anyone? Constancy is the sword that puts everything to flight. It is the chain that binds all virtues, in such a way as to feel caressed by them continuously. And the fire of purgatory shall have no work to do, because constancy has ordered everything, and has made the ways of the soul similar to those of the Creator. February 9th, 1906. The union of our actions with those of Jesus is guarantee of salvation. Continuing in my usual state, I saw just the shadow of Blessed Jesus, all afflicted, and almost in the act of sending chastisements. Upon seeing him, I said, "From the way he appeared, who shall be able not just to escape the chastisements, but even to obtain salvation?" And he, changing appearance, said, "My daughter, the union of the human works with mine is the guarantee to be saved, because if two persons work in the same field, their working in that field is the guarantee that both of them must harvest. In the same way, the one who unites his works with mine, it is as if he were working in my field. Therefore shall he not harvest in my kingdom? Shall he perhaps have to work united with me in my field, and then harvest in a kingdom completely foreign to me? Certainly not." February 12th, 1906. The virtues make us reach a certain height, but in the divine will there are no boundaries. Effects of the mere word, will of God. As I was in my usual state, I was feeling all oppressed because of the privation of my blessed Jesus. Then he came for just a little and told me, "My daughter, all other virtues in the creature build a wall of a certain height, but the wall of the soul who lives in the will of God is a wall so high and deep that neither its depth nor its height can be found. Also, it is all of pure and solid gold, not subject to any misfortune, because since this wall is in the divine volition, that is in God, God himself keeps it, and there is no power that can defy God. And the soul, while living in this divine volition, is clothed with a light all similar to him in whom she lives, so much so that also in heaven she shall shine more than all the others, in such a way as to be an occasion of greater glory for the very saints. Ah, my daughter, think a little bit of what an atmosphere of peace and of goods the mere word will of God contains. At the mere thought of wanting to live in this atmosphere, the soul feels already changed. She feels a divine air investing her. She feels her human being dissolved. She feels divinized. From impatient, patient. From proud, humble, docile, charitable, obedient. In sum, from poor, rich. All the other virtues arise to surround like a crown this high wall that has no boundaries. Because since God has no boundaries, the soul is dissolved within God. She loses her own boundaries and acquires the boundaries of the will of God. February 23rd, 1906. How Jesus was nailed to the cross in the will of the Father. This morning I was thinking of our Lord in the act in which they were nailing him to the cross. I was compassionating all of him, and blessed Jesus told me, "My daughter, not only my hands and feet were nailed to the cross, but all the particles of my humanity, soul, and divinity were all nailed in the will of the Father." In fact, the crucifixion was the will of the Father. Therefore I was nailed and transmuted completely in his will. This was necessary, because what is sin but withdrawing from the will of God, from everything that is good and holy that God has given us, believing to be something of one's own, and offending the Creator? And I, in order to repair for this audacity, and for this self-idol that the creature makes of herself, wanted to dissolve my will completely, and live from the will of the Father, at the cost of great sacrifice. February 28th, 1906. The greatest honor that the creature can give to God is to depend on his divine will in everything. The way in which grace communicates itself. This morning, blessed Jesus made himself seen for just a little, and told me, "My daughter, the greatest honor that the creature can give to God is to depend on his divine will in everything." And the Creator, in seeing that the creature fulfills her duty of creature toward the Creator, communicates his grace to her. And while he was saying this, a light came out of blessed Jesus that made me comprehend the way in which he communicates grace. I understood it in this way. For example, the soul feels within herself the annihilation of herself. She sees her nothingness, her misery, her inability to do a shadow of good. Now, while she feels this way, God communicates His grace, and the grace of truth, in such a way that the soul can see the truth in everything without deceit, without darkness. And here is how what God is by nature, eternal truth that cannot deceive nor be deceived, the soul becomes by grace. That is to say, the soul feels detachment from the things of the earth. She sees their fleetingness, their instability, how everything is false, everything is rot, that deserves to be abhorred rather than loved. While the soul feels this state, God communicates His grace, and the grace of true love and of eternal love. He communicates His beauty in such a way as to make the loving soul go mad, and the soul remains filled with the love and the beauty of God. And here is how what God is by nature, love and eternal beauty, the soul becomes by grace. And so with all the other divine virtues, such that if I wanted to say everything, I would be too long. I only add that grace anticipates the soul. It excites her, but only when the soul masticates those truths and swallows them like food into her bosom. Then it communicates itself and enters to take possession of her. This is why not everyone receives the effects described above, because they let them escape from their minds like lightnings, and do not make a place for them. March 4th, 1906. Jesus jokes with Luisa. Continuing in my usual state, I was saying to myself, Lord, manifest your will to me, whether I must be in this state or not. What would you lose? It is a yes or a no that you need to say. While I was saying this, blessed Jesus made himself felt in my interior and told me, My daughter, I say that I want you to go out of this state of victim. But if you do it, woe. And I, if you yourself tell me that you would want me to go out of it, should I not do it? And he, I must say it to you, push you, make violence on you, and you must not do it, because a daughter who is always with her father must know the temperament of the father, the time, and the cause. She must ponder everything well, and if needed, she must dissuade her father from giving her this command. And I have not done it because obedience does not want it. And he, without giving me time, and if they allow you to, woe to the one who does it. On hearing this, I said, Lord, it seems that this time you want to tempt me and create many embarrassments for me. I myself don't know what to do. And he, I wanted to joke a little bit with you. Do spouses not joke with each other sometimes? and could I not do likewise? March 5th, 1906. Jesus asks her to give him relief. She sees a man committing suicide. Continuing in my usual state, I found myself outside of myself with baby Jesus, all afflicted. In seeing him so afflicted, I said, "My dear little one, tell me, what do you want? That I suffer in order to relieve you?" And he placed himself with his face to the ground, praying, almost wanting me to interpret his will. But I could not understand anything. I raised him from the ground. I kissed him several times, and I said, "My beloved, I cannot understand what you want. Do you want me to suffer the crucifixion?" And he, "No." He took my arm with his hand, and my wrist appeared from the cuff of my shirt. In seeing this, I said, "Do you want me to be stripped? I feel great repugnance, but for love of you, I submit myself." In the meantime, I saw a man who, taken by desperation and by esteem of his own self, was committing suicide, and this in our town. The baby told me, "I cannot contain so much bitterness. Receive part of it." And he poured a little bit of his bitterness into my mouth. I ran to that man to help him to repent of the evil he had done. The demons were taking that soul, placing it on the fire, and turning it over and over again, as if they were roasting it. I freed him as many as 2 times, and then I found myself inside myself, praying the Lord to have mercy on that unfortunate soul. Blessed Jesus came back with the crown of thorns, so sunken into his head that the thorns appeared even inside his mouth. And he told me, "Ah, my daughter, yet many do not believe that the thorns penetrated even into my mouth. The sin of pride is so awful as to be the poison of the soul. It kills it. Just as one who has something across his mouth prevents any food from passing into his body to give him life, so does pride prevent the life of God in the soul. This is why I wanted to suffer so much, because of human pride. And in spite of this, the creature reaches such pride that, drunk with pride, he loses the knowledge of himself and reaches the point of killing his body and soul. To obey, I say that when I told Father what I have written above, he assured me that on that morning a man had committed suicide. March 9th, 1906. She sees purging souls going to help the peoples. Continuing in my usual state, I just barely saw Blessed Jesus and many purging souls, whom Jesus Christ was sending to the help of the peoples. It seems that many disgraces of contagious diseases were to happen to the peoples, and earthquakes in some places. Some were killing themselves. Some were throwing themselves into wells or into the sea. And some were killing others. It seems that man is tired of himself, because without God he does not feel the strength to continue living. Oh God, how many chastisements, and how many thousands of people shall be victims of these scourges. March 13th, 1906. If the soul cannot be without Jesus, it is a sign that she is necessary to his love. This morning, blessed Jesus was not coming, and I was saying to myself, Lord, don't you see that I feel life missing in me? I feel such necessity of you, that if you do not come, I feel my being destroyed. Do not deny me what is absolutely necessary to me. I do not ask you for kisses, caresses, favors, but only for what is necessary. While I was saying this, I found myself all absorbed in him. My whole being was dissolved in such a way that I could do nothing and see nothing but what he himself was doing and seeing. I felt blissful, happy, all of my powers dozy, just like one who goes into the depths of the sea that is all water, and if he looks, he sees water. If he speaks, the water prevents his speech and enters even into his bowels. If he listens, it is the murmuring of the waters that enters into his ears. With this difference, that in the sea one's life is in danger, and one feels neither happy nor blissful, while in God one reacquires divine life, happiness, and beatitude. Then blessed Jesus told me, My daughter, if you cannot be without me, so much am I necessary for you, it is a sign that you are necessary to my love. In fact, the degree in which one becomes necessary to someone else is a sign that the second is necessary to the first. Therefore, even though sometimes it seems that I am not coming, and you struggle, and I see how necessary I am for you, as this necessity grows in you, so does it grow in me, and I say to myself, I am going to go and take this relief for my love. This is why, after you have struggled, I come. April 17th, 1906. God shall arm the elements against man. This morning I had a bad time. I was outside of myself and I could see nothing but fire. It seemed that the earth would open and threaten to swallow cities, mountains, and men. It seemed that the Lord would want to destroy the earth, but in a special way 3 different places, distant from one another, and some of them also in Italy. They seemed to be 3 mouths of volcanoes. Some were sending out fire that flooded the cities, and in some places the earth was opening and horrible quakes would occur. I could not understand very well whether these things were happening or shall have to happen. How many ruins! Yet the cause of this is only sin, and man does not want to surrender. It seems that man has placed himself against God, and God shall arm the elements against man, water, fire, wind, and many other things that shall cause many upon many to die. What fright! What horror! I felt I was dying in seeing all these sorrowful scenes. I would have wanted to suffer anything to placate the Lord. And the Lord made himself seen for just a little. But who can say how? I said a few words to placate him, but he would not listen to me. Then he told me, "My daughter, I can find no place left in which to rest in my creation. Let me rest in you, and you rest in me and keep quiet." April 25th, 1906. She suffers together with Jesus. He gives her all of his sufferings and all of himself as gift. As I was in my usual state, I seemed to see blessed Jesus inside of me, all afflicted, in the act of suffering the crucifixion, and it seemed that I would suffer a little together with him. Then he told me, "My daughter, everything is yours, my sufferings and all of myself. I give you everything as gift." Then he added, "My daughter, how many things creatures do against me. What a thirst for sins they have. What a thirst for blood. I would want to do nothing but pour the bowels of the earth inside out and burn them all up." And I, "Lord, what are you saying? You told me that you are all mine, and the one who gives himself to someone else is no longer the master of himself. I do not want you to do this, and you must not do it. If you want satisfaction from me, make me suffer whatever you want, for I am ready for everything." So I felt him within me, as if I were keeping him bound, and oftentimes he would repeat, "Let me do, for I can take no more. Let me do, for I can take no more." And I would repeat, "I do not want it, Lord. I do not want it." But as I was saying this, I felt my heart split with tenderness in admiring his goodness, so condescending to a sinful soul such as I. I could comprehend many things about the divine goodness, but I cannot say them well. April 26, 1906. Jesus does not want to let her see the chastisements so as not to afflict her. Continuing in my poor state, I felt there were people around my bed who wanted me to see the chastisements that were happening in the world. Earthquakes, wars, and many other things that I could not understand well, to make me intercede with the Lord. It seemed to me that they were saints, but I cannot tell with certainty. In the meantime, blessed Jesus came out from within my interior, and he said to them, "Do not molest her. Do not afflict her by wanting to make her see sorrowful scenes. Rather let her be tranquil and leave her alone with me." They went away, and I remained concerned. Who knows what is happening that he does not even want me to see? Then afterwards, I found myself outside of myself, and I saw a priest who began to talk about the earthquakes that had occurred in the past days, saying, "The Lord is very indignant. I believe they are not yet finished." And I, "Who knows whether we shall be spared?" He became inflamed, and it seemed that his heart was beating so strongly that I could feel it myself, and those heartbeats would reverberate in my heart. I could not understand who he was, but I felt a certain something being communicated to me. Then he added, "How can grave things happen, with destructions and dying of people, where there is a heart that loves for all? At most a few tremors might be felt, without considerable damage." On hearing "a heart that loves for all," I felt as though I were being picked on, and I myself cannot tell how I came out saying, "What are you saying? A heart that loves for all? Not only that loves for all, but that repairs for all, that suffers, that thanks, that praises, that adores, that respects the holy law for all. Because I do not believe it is true love toward the beloved if one does not render him the love and all the satisfaction that the others were supposed to render him, in such a way that in that person he must find all the good and the contentment that he was to find in all." On hearing me, he became more ignited, and drew near me in the act of wanting to clasp me. I was afraid. I felt blushing for having spoken that way, and my heart, struck by his heartbeats, was throbbing. He seemed to transform, as if he were our Lord, but I cannot tell you with certainty. Without my being able to oppose him, he clasped me to himself, telling me, "Every morning I shall come to you, and we shall have breakfast together." At that moment, I found myself inside myself. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 7, Part 1. Fiat.